Welcome to another episode of Create, the podcast where we break down the content strategies behind successful brands and creators. Today, we're deep diving into the world of Loop Earplugs.
We really empower people by giving them control over how to hear life in style and confidence.
A company that's revolutionizing how we think about hearing.
Founded in 2016 by childhood friends Martin Bodewas and Dimitri O, Loop Earplugs started with a simple mission: to make earplugs that were both functional and fashionable. The two friends were nightlife enthusiasts, and they were frustrated with the ringing in their ears after concerts and wanted to create a solution that didn't compromise on style or sound quality.
The thing is, we want to live life to the fullest. We want to party, we want to celebrate, we want to get in our flow, even sleep.
Loop has become a global phenomenon. They've sold over 8 million pairs, expanded into 150 countries.
We were awarded as the best earplug for concerts by the New York Times.
And have grown from two-person startup to a company with over 250 employees.
Yes, and what's really impressive is their explosive growth. So in 2023, Loop reported revenue of 126.5 million, basically tripling their numbers from the previous year. They've been recognized as one of Fast Company's most innovative companies, securing the 18th spot globally and the first spot in the design category.
When we start at Loop, when we enter new markets, when we define our mission, and when we make mistakes, we talk to our customers.
But what's truly fascinating about Loop's success is how they've leveraged content and marketing to change the perception of earplugs. They've positioned the product not just as a hearing protection, but as a lifestyle accessory. Think sunglasses for ears. Their content strategy spans across social media, influencer partnerships, and targeted ads, with a monthly ad spend of $1.5 million.
And Loop's journey is also a masterclass in pivoting and adapting to market needs, because initially they focused on the nightlife scene, but they expanded their target audience during the pandemic to include parents, noise-sensitive individuals, and people seeking better focus or sleep.
When the sun is out and the light hurts your eyes, you're gonna wear sunglasses. Or when you do some exciting or maybe dangerous stuff, you're gonna put on a helmet. It makes sense. When noise is bothering you or potentially even harming you, nobody wears earplugs.
What makes Loop relevant today is the ability to tap into the growing awareness of hearing health and noise sensitivity, while simultaneously making their product cool and desirable. They've turned a traditional unsexy product into a must-have accessory, and their content strategy has been at the heart of their transformation.
All right, so let's dive in and explore how Loop Earplugs has used content to build a brand, create a community, and ultimately change how we think about hearing protection. All right. This is an exciting one for me, just because I know that the founders
I was
are
gonna
Belgian.
say, I actually listened to the interview, and I was like, I can hear from the accent that they were Belgian.
I think at least one of them is. I'm not sure about the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of them is, but I was surprised that they started in 2016. Because we've only started hearing about them in the last couple of years, which is also when they adapted their content strategy and their marketing strategy. Because previous to the pandemic, they were like mostly sold in like large retailers. So you would find them at that time we had like this thing called Saturn, which is now MediaMarkt.
Okay.
And so they were sold there in like the music section, and then same thing for like a retailer in the US, basically.
Okay.
That was their strategy. And then because in the pandemic, they were doing roughly 100K a month, and their revenue dropped to 20K a month because there was no more nightlife. Like, who's buying the earplugs?
Because of COVID. Yeah. I think that's where they decided to pivot to...
they had to pivot because otherwise they would have gone under. Mm-hmm. But they've done it brilliantly. And they are really, I just love their approach, because same thing as we said with Dollar Shave Club, in a sense of like, you can really sell anything if you know how to tell a good story, if your marketing is on point. Same thing here.
So where is the customer base? Like, is it mainly in the US or?
It's worldwide now. They're in 150 countries, have sold over 8 million pairs of earplugs. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a worldwide thing. It's no longer like just Europe. Previously, it was Belgium, I think, and the US. Mm-hmm. And then with like the shift during the pandemic, I'm not sure if you can purchase them in store. I'm sure they have some retailer connections as well. But a lot of the stuff is now sold, like a lot of their products now
Online.
sold on their own website, which is also a smart shift, just profit margin wise, to sell from your own point of sales.
Directly to consumer. Yeah.
But they've done brilliantly in the sense of the product is the same, like it's earplugs.
And it's pretty cool. And I'm actually going to purchase one of it, at least one or two, because it gives a little bit the AirPod vibe, but I love it because it feels, I like I have a ear, like I like jewelries, and it's so nice to actually,
it's an accessory, the way they've designed it, the fact that there are different colors, and they do it well in their marketing as well, where they show you like the ugly foam ones that used to like, and they're still sold, but like that were sort of popular, and then their earplugs that look really nice. It looks like a little ring in your ear. They have different colors,
like the gold one, the fluorescent one. They have one,
But I think, like, aside from the fact that they've sort of made it fashionable, it's also about all of the little mini personas that they've created. Because that, when I was doing my research, I found very interesting. When you look at their marketing, you have some very like clear segments of like, oh, people who go to concerts and festivals. Then you have parents who are like overstimulated, people with ADHD, and then even within like
wellness,
that festival, and even within that festival or like nightlife section, you have like the raver. They're like they have all of these personas. But then when you go to the website, like it's not like they have 20 different types of earplugs. There's like a very limited set of earplugs to choose from. You do the quiz, which is also a good thing that they have that on their website. So they have a little quiz that you do and to figure out which type of earplug that you should purchase, and then you can choose what color you want. And then they have like, I know that they're now doing something with Coachella as well, where they have like a limited edition.
I was gonna say that I didn't have that information specifically, but I think it would be great if I think they do. Like,
they have something on their Instagram now about like, oh, this girl is going to Coachella, and it's basically like a top-down video of someone like packing their suitcase and then like putting the Loop earplugs in there, and it's like this beautiful, again, in the vibe of Coachella. Like I think it was like a pink and blue pastel kind of design. But even there, just like if you look at it from a business perspective, not a content perspective, business perspective, it's the same damn product in a different color. But now all of a sudden it's a limited edition, and we can say that it's a collaboration with Coachella. Like they didn't all of a sudden invent how they built these earplugs. It's the exact same thing in a different color. But like a bunch of people will buy them because they're
not only buy one, but they would buy. For example, I know they sold me, so I'm definitely gonna buy because I'm going to a festival this summer, and I'm definitely gonna get a few.
But the thing, this is my question, but maybe I like the idea of Loop because it's like reusable compared to like the phone ones that you used to have. And I have like a music background, and I fucked up my ears by not wearing earplugs. And then like as soon as I hit my early 20s, like I had reusable earplugs, and I would travel with them. And like whenever I go out and I know it's going to be noisy, I use them because I already have like some hearing loss. But it wasn't as fancy as this. But even then, like I had one pair, and you could change like the filters on them to see like how many decibels it like lowered the volume. But this is interesting for me because for me, I would buy one pair of Loop earplugs and be like, I have my pair of earplugs to protect my ears. You would buy them because they're fashionable.
Yeah, because like, I can match them
in different colors.
Yeah, I can match them with but there is of course the usability of the fact that I want to be able to protect my ears. But again, I think the fashionable side of it is interesting because then I can match it with different outfits and
no, that makes sense. And I think that's also part of their strategy because they do have like these product images or like marketing images of like a woman dressed in like a little black dress going out, and then she has like a nice Loop earplug in, and it looks nice with her outfit. So it's definitely part of their strategy. I think it's also just the pivot that they made. Yeah. So many businesses went under during COVID, and they were like, okay, how can we market this.
Market
This
this.
is we have the product. How can we market it differently so that we can sell more? And to imagine, like, prior to COVID, you're at 100K a month. You go down to 20K a month in 2020. And they're now at, like, what was it, 2023? They were at 126 million.
Yep. That's great.
Insane.
That's insane. But how do you think they got there? Like, of course, they created a lot of content.
Well, business-wise, I don't know, like, what kind of an investment would you need for that pivot? How much, like, did they have in them? I don't know that.
No, I mean marketing-wise and content-wise.
Marketing-wise, they really went with, okay, who else could use our product aside from nightlife? And then it became about ADHD, noise sensitivity, and even noise sensitivity is very broad. You can be like, oh, I want to focus better while studying. And I'm distracted easily when I have noise around me. That's one persona. I'm a parent and my kid goes, mama, mommy. And I have experience with this like the entire day. And by the end of the day, you're like, oh, can't hear another mom. And then like, or just like not even mom, but like little noises.
Noises, yeah.
Like when they're playing, it's like, blah, 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 blah. And like that for me, I've spoken to my sister about is like the mess I can handle. The fact that you have to explain everything 20 times I can handle. It's the noise that it's just like, it's so overwhelming at times. So they made that a persona.
Yeah.
And so they very much started speaking towards the pain points and then going, oh, here you have this product that can fix it, which is an earplug. Let's be honest, it's an earplug. And I love to point this out to people to just sort of like dispel like the charm of the storytelling to then understand like how important it is for a brand, right? Like storytelling is everything. Important. But if we're like talking about it, like just very bluntly, they're selling earplugs. It used to come like it's $1 or €1. It's foam. You put it in your ears. And I'm sure they're like better. And now you have the filters on them. And like you can, with the foam ones, I didn't wear them back in the day because they just felt like too big. Like it felt like I was losing out on the experience. Whereas now with Loop, like you have different sizes. Like the box comes with like the different size. Same as when you have AirPods or like buds to listen to music from.
Okay, so you're saying because I'm definitely not aware about the technology of
I'm selling you the plugs basically.
So you're saying
Loop,
there are different.
You owe me a commission, Loop. I'm selling earplugs for you.
And I'm definitely gonna be a loyal customer for sure. Like so, you're saying there are different. I would say levels of noise cancellation. Yeah.
Well,
or sound
they
cancellation.
have different earplug types. So I think from what I've understood from the website, and again, I'm not a Loop representative. Like,
it feels like
and do the quiz, guys. So there are different types of earplugs that they recommend for different settings. So a nightlife earplug would be something different than, for example, someone who wants to study or someone who's just like, as a mom, you don't want to cancel out all noise. You just want to lower the volume so that it doesn't feel so triggering all the time. So that would be a different, basically, filter, right? And then they have just the different pieces to put on, just because the size of your ear isn't the same as the size of my ear. So then much like when you buy AirPods, you have the different fittings that you can put on there. So make sure that it doesn't like hurt. Because that was another thing with earplugs for me, is like after you wear them for a while, it just like, it starts hurting in your ear and you want to take them out. And so that I haven't tried again.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're
I'm not an
you haven't tried it yet.
I have not tried it yet, but that's what I am guessing from what I can find on their website. But the strength for them is the fact that they have narrowed it down to all of these different personas that have noise sensitivity or would want noise cancellation. And then they target that and they have content for that. If you go to their organic channels on Instagram, you'll find a video where it's like you're going out, then the next one is towards a mom, then the next one is towards someone who's studying, always very much with a sense of humor to it as well. And then they did a very good job with their community building. So the same thing when you're already saying like, I'm going to be a loyal customer, that's what they're aiming for, because they have a reusable product. If you have a reusable product that is, to be honest, not priced all that high, you're going to have to find a way to get your customers to come back. Because the initial, like in Say, they don't really have to if your product is reusable. It's not like with the phone ones, you throw it away.
I think that's where the fashionable side of it, because it's becoming a fashion product.
Plus, and I do have it in my prep, they did a really good job on their like community building. If I'm not mistaken, they have like a community of 440,000, no, even more. So when we're looking at influencer marketing, it's like what we found is that they collaborate with over 466,000 Loop fans across social media platforms. Right. So they have, first of all, people who buy Loop will create content about it because it is also sort of a trend. So, let me also hop on the trend of like creating content about my Loop earplugs. So that happens organically. They don't have to pay for that. And it's people promoting
normal
their
people.
Brand.
Normal people.
Sort of the same as I was just doing now. Right.
Exactly.
Like, and there's a ton of people analyzing how quickly the company grew. And that's also how we came to know about them. And so it's basically other people creating content for Loop. Loop doesn't have any supervision over that. They don't pay for that, but it helps massively. But then they also have sort of a members area. I don't know if I say it correctly, but you can get points. I think once you purchase your first pair of earplugs, you get points, and the points give you access to other stuff. And then if you refer other people, you get more points. And then eventually, I don't know, you get more earplugs, or you get like concert tickets or stuff like that. So they are gamifying.
They do a lot of giveaways as well.
So that, and then just like massive amounts of digital ads. That's if you look at how much they spend.
I was retargeted
first, but
just
you should if you weren't,
you're doing it,
it wouldn't make sense. So we both went on the website while prepping for the episode. So we should be retargeted. If we're not retargeted,
you're not doing,
then there's an issue, which is also like something that a lot of corporates don't do. The first thing is you retarget people that come to your website.
No, I've seen a lot of people doing ads. Well, I'm not going to name the brand here, but we almost worked with them. Hopefully, I'm happy we didn't. They are basically doing some ads on Facebook or social, and they're redirecting the customers on the website without any retargeting, just sending them to the website and expecting them to take action, and no retargeting.
What do you... Wait, because I'm confused now. What do you think retargeting is?
Well, retargeting is when you go to, when you have users that go to your website and then you retarget them thanks to a cookie on other social media platforms.
Okay, no. So you're talking the brands that you're talking about is like, they run cold advertising.
Yes.
To get you to the website and then they forget about you. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? You
an ad
and then to the website? No, so they're retargeting. They forget to retarget afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of brands forget about that. And luckily for Loop, they don't. And they just they have a really good and clean website. Like you go there, everything sort of tries to push you into that quiz of like, what kind of earplugs do you need? They have a very big blog as well. So they're doing SEO as well. And then they do, I would say, focus a little bit more, at least in-house, they focus a little bit more on like the traditional video marketing approach. They've done like out-of-home placements. Like this is no longer a bootstrapped company that is just doing digital placements, which is sort of like, if you look at it, to be expected if you see that their initial approach was large retail contracts and let's get our products on the shelves and people will buy it that way. So this shift to these micro personas and digital content has only really happened in the last 3 years, 4 years, something like that. So does make sense because I see here also like they launched their first global brand campaign, Shut Up Noise, Turn Up Sound, October 2023. And then they did digital out-of-home placements in New York City and London featuring eye-catching visuals and messaging. If you're listening to this, you don't know what an out-of-home placement is. Basically like when you're waiting for the bus and you have these digital screens with advertising on them. Any sort of like basically outdoor city, street, highway, wherever it is, you have these large digital panels where brands can buy advertising space. That's out of home. It is, compared to digital advertising, a lot more expensive. So when you work in a more corporate environment, and when I say corporate, I just mean anything that's past the scale up stage, where you have a little bit more of like, oh, we have a marketing department, we have this, we have like, and there's procedures, and we're starting to talk about my budget this quarter is 200K and I need to spend it because otherwise next quarter they're not going to give me 200K, which is, I understand why that's in place, but when you come from a startup background, you're like, you would be applauded if you got your job done for less than the budget, right? Whereas in a corporate environment, that's not the case. It's like managers will scram at the end of the year to spend their budgets because they know if I don't spend it, I'm not going to be able to justify having this money next year. So out of home, for my experience, is something that only happens when you have larger budgets. And then people go for a marketing mix where they're like, we're doing digital, we're doing social, we're doing search and display, but we also need to do television, radio, out of home, magazine, like print placements. And then like the larger budgets often go to that.
To those,
Which is, from my experience, for example, I consulted a corporate client last year here in Belgium, and out of like let's say 100K budget, they were like, let's spend 50K to run an ad for 2 weeks in the movie theater in 2 locations. And for me, because I have a digital background and I know how impactful like digital can be, I'm like, what are you doing? But in a larger corporate setting, they're just going like, well, we want to touch people in multiple touch points. So when they're doing out of home, like they got budget, and they're really putting that behind there. It is a little bit more of a traditional channel, I would say.
But there are people. What about companies? Well, from what you said, you definitely don't advise. You don't advise startups to go for that way. But there are some marketing managers who would think about that without thinking digital first.
It really depends. Like if you are a startup, but you don't sell, for example, startup doesn't necessarily need to mean digital startup. It doesn't need to mean tech startup. You can be a startup very locally. Out of home locally then makes sense because you're trying to get in foot traffic. Locally, then it makes sense. Although even there, if you have limited budget, localized social media ads, you're gonna get more reach and awareness through that.
Yeah, because the goal at the end is awareness for those type of campaigns.
Yes, but there is also something called like ad recall. An ad recall, not digital. Like if you're looking at cinema placements, brands featured in movies, print placements, PR, those things often have higher recall than social media ads, Google display ads, anything digital, because we get bombarded with ads on social. Like you scroll on Instagram and it's like every 4 posts you have an ad. Whereas if you go to the movies and you sit down and you're waiting for your movie to begin, the only thing you can watch is that there's no way to scroll past it. It's like I can't click skip on the ad. So that's why out of home placements or like movie placements sometimes still make sense. Out of home it's still different. I would say like anything that's in a spot where people have to wait anyway would make sense. But even then, like nowadays, it's like you're on your phone. When you're waiting for the bus, you're on your phone.
On your phone. That's what I wanted to know. Like if you have a 30K marketing budget, you don't go for that. That's where I wanted to go.
Well, unless you're catering to an audience that's not online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Why do you think UGC works so well for these type of brands like Loop Earplugs?
Well, it's not just for Loop. It's for anyone who has, I would say a physical product is easier for UGC. Let's say it like that. Like there are nuances in here, but for a physical product, it's easier. I think UGC content is great for the consumers that you're trying to attract when they're not early adopters. So early adopters don't need that. Early adopters are like, oh, this sounds great. Like I want to be the first trying this. So they don't rely on other people's opinions, on like necessarily seeing how someone else is using the product. They're like, I want to be the first. They're easily convinced purely on specs or it being innovative or anything like that. UGC is a great way for any sort of consumer that needs a little bit more convincing and that doesn't trust easily.
Yeah.
And that would like to see how other people are using the product. Is the quality good? Like they have questions and they're like unsure and they need that extra convincing. And then UGC is great because now it's not the founder talking about how great his product is. It's someone else that they can relate to. That's also important. Like that they can relate to that is using that product. And now, because I do follow this person or I do admire that person and I like trust that person, now I want to buy it. And with Loop, that makes sense because for me, for example, an earplug, I would never think of like, oh, this could help me. I don't go out. Like I was supposed to come to your birthday party over the weekend. I was like, I'm tired.
Well, it wasn't that noisy.
No, but it's more like I don't go out. So like what would I use earplugs for? So for me, it would make sense to see another mom be like, oh, I actually use this to not get so overwhelmed by the end of the day, especially in the weekend. So that would make sense. Although maybe I'm a bit of an early adopter, so maybe that's not fully like, I also am already convinced just by
so UGC in general helps the consumer to be able to relate to that. And I think it's also cheaper.
Well, it sort of depends on how you go about it.
Well, if you go, for example, what I see with Loop Earplugs, what they do, they would go with really normal people content. So it doesn't cost that much to actually create that because and you don't need specifically need people. It
depends. So first of all, let's make a difference between UGC and influencer, right? Because user-generated content is something else than paying a micro-influencer to create content in UGC style. It's still influencer marketing. You're still paying that person. And with UGC, a lot of the stuff that you see that's UGC content isn't actually UGC content.
Yes.
It's influencer, it's micro-influencer content that looks like UGC content because like that's what works.
So would you define, I gather, let's say 20 profiles, okay? 20 people on the internet, on Instagram that have both, 1,000 following, so that's not much.
Yeah.
And I have them do content with my product so that I can post it on my channels. I don't count that as influence marketing
because there's a nuance here. Did they buy your product beforehand? Or are you sending it to them and asking them to create content?
No, they were gifted. Of course, it's micro.
There you go.
Yeah, it's still micro influencing.
That's the whole point. UGC's user-generated content. Some of your users are creating content about your product. That's in essence user-generated content. As soon as you have to go and ship your product to someone so that they can then create content, it's influencer.
Okay. I was gonna phrase it again in another way. People get your product, you tell them, hey, we have this nice product, we would like you to use it and share your feedback. Is it UGC or influence marketing?
Yeah, because feedback can be, I tried it and I send you a message saying,
this is what I like, you say, I send you the product and I would like you to I'm asking, just you shoot the video just to give your feedback about the product. And I'm just saying this because
I think it also depends on, do you want them to post it to their own channels?
no, they give it to you for your channels.
Gray area. It's a gray area. I think influencer is still also under the idea of they post it to their own following, regardless of how big or how small it is. But so if you want to get a lot of content done, what Loop is doing is the ambassador sort of program, right? Where you recommend this stuff to other people, they buy, you get points. And then some people will do that directly to their friends. Other people will be like, let me create content about it so that I can like get my referrals that way. And that's a very cost-effective way to create a ton of content. And then they have large influencer partnerships
for sure
as well. And that's just like they pay these people flat rate for X amount of assets, usage over 12 to 24 months, 6 to 24 months often. And then a whole deal where it's like, can we use it in advertising or not? Like, then it becomes like high numbers, like depending on how big the person is, of course. But then it's like you pay a flat fee upfront.
Totally makes sense. So what do you think someone listening to this can take away as tips, as any
From what
we've been discussing?
I think the most important one is to look again at the product or service that you're selling and start looking at, okay, what are the different sort of personas that could use this? Because Loop very much just started two friends who liked going out, didn't want to deal with hearing loss. And that's how most companies start, right? Like they see a problem, we want to fix that. But often your product has like a lot more use cases to it, which is the same for us. When we started at Clipmasters, we were like, we do video editing, we can help you edit videos, which is in a sense like the biggest thing that we do, right? And then, but we actually also have graphic designers and strategists, and like so it's a lot broader, first of all. But then it became, well, videos is very broad. No one's gonna feel spoken to. So then we say we can help podcast studios, like we can handle all post-production for podcast editing
and
for
have
podcast
a specific
studios.
messaging.
And then we speak directly to those because those people have a different need. Like they are talking about, we need to be able to deliver podcast episodes within 48 hours to our clients. It's still the same thing. It's the same team working on the videos, doing all like, we edit the videos, we like we've done before, but now we're talking towards podcast studios or people having a podcast. And then another persona for us is like, okay, mid to large content creators. Okay, they have other stuff that they worry about. They have, what's the wash through time? How can we increase view count or click through rate on thumbnails, etc. That's stuff that like a tech startup, which is another one of our personas, like doesn't worry about. So you look at the product or service that you're offering and you go, what are my different use cases? And this can be like, this can be 20, 30, 40. And then you start with like focusing on a couple. And I do feel that niching down is where you sort of blow up. And not in the sense of like, we now no longer offer something to other people. But if you look at Loop, they went from, we sell earplugs to, we protect your ears when you go out, whether you're a raver or a festival goer, like, and they niched down 100 times, right? Without actually, like, this is, maybe I'm not using the right words, but like, they created these sub niches within their niche and serviced them all because the product is the same, but like the marketing became very targeted. We would be great for people with ADHD because they already have like this impulse thing.
So we need
like,
to speak to them.
So now we're going to do this thing with ADHD. Influencers who talk about ADHD.
Communities.
Content about ADHD. And they did that entire pillar. And then when they went parents. Okay, parents who are overwhelmed. Now we can do like... And so they created all of these sub-niches or little pillars within their content. And they blew up. Like we're talking about... went down to 20K 2020, and by 2023, 3 years later, they were at 126 million a year. So 20K is a month. So they were at like, let's say 240K a year when the pandemic hit. and they went to 126 million a year in 3 years by doing that.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. And so even if you're listening to this, whether you're a product manager or a marketing manager within a corporate and you're looking at new ways of like pushing extra sales, that could be something. But also if you're a startup founder, look at how, and it doesn't have to be as extensive as Loop did, but look at how maybe you can find 4 or 5 different segments or sub niches that you can cater to, and then start landing pages for those people, specific content for those people, influencers or UGC creators that serve as that niche as well. And I think that is the way to go then.
So content was definitely important for them. Working with retailers or wholesales wouldn't have brought them to that level of success they are today. So content is king in a way.
Well, I don't think we'll ever know. Like maybe if they like, there are plenty of brands, like if they scale the amount of like retailers they work with, but
no, but I mean to have that community, that type of community, or
you'd have to like do your content from the brand, right? And to really like, I'm sure they have a great marketing team, and then I think they have a great like strategic marketing team in-house, and maybe a couple of operational people, and then probably a lot of great creative partners and ad partners. Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, thank you for listening, and we will catch up.
Yeah. And if you have any other brands or creators that you want us to discuss, please drop it in the comments down below. Hit that subscribe button as well. Share it with someone who might find this useful. And then we will talk to you in the next one.
Talk to you in the next one. Bye.